Let's talk about this character, which you may know from place names like Jiugaoka or counting like Sankagetsu. But what is it? Where does it come from? And why does it exist? Let's talk about that. First and foremost, this is not the katakana K and has no relationship to it. If you're not familiar, katakana come from simplifications or kind of adjustments to kanji, and so the katakana for K comes from this, which can be read as K, hence why the katakana exists. Yes, it does look exactly like the katakana K, but that can happen. What letter is this? Did you say a lowercase l? Well, no, I'm sorry, it's an uppercase I. Did you say an uppercase I? Well, no, I'm sorry, it's a lowercase l. Let's not make me touch the sign. But this character, which again is not this katakana, does come from kanji. Specifically, it originates in a ryakuji, or a kind of shortening character of this. Basically, if you take the top part of that kanji, which is the bamboo radical, and just take one bit of it, you get the same shape as the katakana K. However, unlike the katakana K, this kanji's predominant onyomi is ka. So this character is used in Japanese to represent the sounds ka, and because Japanese people regularly voice the onyomi of things when necessary, it can also be ga. But how is it used? Why does it exist? Well, basically, there are three major reasons why you'll see this character around. And the first is it's kind of just being used as a shorthand for the original kanji, because the kanji it comes from is traditionally used as a counter of a variety of things. Indeed, in Chinese, it's considered a variant of this, which is used now in Japanese as the counter ko. It's a distinct counter in Japanese, but they're both still, counters. So when you write something like sankagetsu in Japanese, 3 months worth of time, or like sankasho, 3 places, you can write it with the kanji, you can write it with just the ka in hiragana or even katakana, but you can also write it using this shortened form. Additionally though, this is used in a lot of proper nouns, such as you can see on the sign from Minamigaoka. Now in this use, what is happening is the ga that appears in a lot of Japanese proper nouns is an old use of the particle ga, which you may see here and there in Japanese because of these proper nouns and some old phrases that still exist, but no longer is applied to ga, and that is a kind of possessive, basically what we would now use the possessive no for. Indeed, if you look up ga in a dictionary, you'll note this use, but it will probably be labeled as archaic. So the literal meaning of like Jiugaoka that I mentioned earlier is like the Hill of Liberty, and even the Japanese national anthem, Kimi ga Yo, uses ga in this way to connect era to Kimi. It's your era. It's a song about you. It's like that Time magazine thing, only for a national anthem. Nothing I just said is true. And while yes, these are all therefore particles and not kanji, do remember that at one time in Japanese history, everything was written in kanji because that's all they had. So one of the kanji that was used for this particle, which again is an old particle, so it appeared in old writing, was this kanji here, so it got shortened to this. And because, proper names, place names, names of national anthems tend to be pretty stable, even as the language has evolved, the use in these names has kept going. Finally then, while talking about old forms of writing, remember that in Japanese there was no kind of formal standards of how to write the language, and as a result there was a lot of kind of ad hoc ateji that went around. And so this kanji, and therefore the shortening of this kanji, were used to represent the sound ka when people kind of felt like writing a ka without attaching any meaning to it. Most of these uses are incredibly archaic, and like all of them are dead, but one that is quite famous to the extent that like it became a representation that people were using normatively until it got thrown out during a number of language reforms the last 100 years or so, is writing muzukashi like this. Yes, this would be read as mutsukashi, but that's okay, that's actually how the word used to be pronounced. But in older texts, you can absolutely find difficult written using this, K-looking thing. So that's why you see it, but if you think it's still kind of weird, I mean, it kind of is. For instance, it's really hard to define what we call it. Normally, a ryakuji is considered still a kanji, not like an official one, but, a kanji. But if you look up this word on Wikipedia, for instance, it just calls it a emoji. And other people call it a kigo, or like a symbol, which is the term that is often used for things like this character, the repetition character, known colloquially, known in kind of common parlance often as noma, but more officially called like an odoriji, or a kurikaishiten, there's a lot of names for it. But for a character like this, or like the cho-onpu, the long vowel extender, it makes sense not to call them kanji because they don't have any inherent meaning or inherent reading until they are used in a context. In contrast, at least when you're counting things, this K-looking thing is still arguably providing meaning and sound. That said, while people I guess can fight for however long they want, at least sankagetsu, about what to call this, general consensus is that it's no longer a kanji anymore, though I think you could argue that it is. But whatever. Honestly, in linguistics, all labels are arbitrary. We don't even have a functional absolute definition of a language versus a dialect, so it's just a thing. It's certainly a thing, right? We can say it's a thing. More complex, though, is the fact that people don't even agree on how to write it. Generally speaking, you're probably familiar with it as a shrunk character. And for this reason, it has been called a sutegana, which is the name for kind of shrunk characters, although again, other sutegana are kana, and I don't know if this is a kana, but let's not get back to that. But you can write it in a large shape, and it was shrunk down here to differentiate it from the katakana ke. But you can also write it in big full size, so it looks exactly like ke. Indeed, there are cities in Japan which share the same name, but differ based on whether they prefer the large versus the small in the representation. And you can also just delete it. Like Sakuragaoka here does not have that representation anywhere in the name. You just have to know that it's supposed to be said that way. Fans of the Yamanote line are probably delighting, but other people might find that a bit frustrating. So arguably, yeah, look, we can explain where this character comes from, and we can explain how it's still used in contemporary Japanese, but it's kind of hard to explain like why it's still there. It could technically just be completely thrown out and replaced with the kanji it's supposed to represent, or again, just the hiragana or katakana for the sound it's supposed to make. So if you're one of those people that gets frustrated by language not fitting into nice little logical structures or having kind of excess, this entire discussion may make you say, oh my god. But if you've more accepted that actually these kind of weird things exist in all languages and they're kind of fun, at the end of the day, you may find the existence of this character to be ultimately a-okay.